Hi, I'm Nadia and I'm the Yogi.
And I'm Michelle and I'm the Blonde.
And this is the Yogi and the Blonde podcast.
In this podcast, we offer guidance,
Motivation,
education,
and inspiration
to help you adopt healthy habits you can sustain for life.
If you enjoy the podcast and would like further information,
head over to our Instagram or YouTube pages.
You can find the links in the bio. Welcome, everyone, to our podcast today.
Yogi and the Blonde is back.
We are back. Well, why we say that? Because we've been struggling to get together to record some podcasts because I was sick. I end up getting flooding.
Reasons.
I've had a few issues to pull us back, but whatever. I think the universe
all been Nadia's issues.
Welcome to Nadia's issues today. But today we are going to talk about NEAT, what it stands for, and then 5 ways how to increase it while you're at work. So it's kind of like a win-win factor here for those that are in a sitting disease position.
Sitting disease, yeah. People that lead sedentary lives need to be listening to this podcast for sure.
Yeah. And just understand what it is. And it's interesting because just thinking about even today when I was with a client, she was talking about how she wants to lose weight. She's going away on holiday in a few weeks' time, and I've talked to her about supporting her and stuff, and I've got some programs I'm working on and stuff, and she seemed a little hesitant, and she's like, oh, I'm on top of it. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, well, if you struggle to lose weight, so obviously what you're doing is not right, and it's about figuring out what's going to work for you and knowing how to eat and to look at your macros and stuff like that, but also knowing what you're consuming and what you're expending as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and we are going to be talking about that this episode and the next episode, a bit about energy and energy out, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, Michelle, you are in charge of taking away on. Michelle's going to talk to us about what is NEAT, what it stands for, and give us some geeky definitions and break it down for us. I hope am I putting you on the spot here, Michelle?
Oh, I was just thinking though, I've somehow become the geek in this. I'm the blonde, but I'm the geek. So actually, I don't mind that because blondes do sometimes get a stereotype of being a bit airheaded. So if I'm gonna take the geeky crown, I'm just gonna own that. Actually, the blonde geeky one that does all the definitions and all the scientific side of things. Yeah, I'll own that. I'll take that.
Yeah. You're the geeky one.
The yogi and the geek can be the technical issues.
Can you hear me?
I can now. I couldn't. I could see you.
Because I communicating. So we're gonna have to start over again.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm having a bit of mal. Yeah.
For your editing, for editing purposes.
Okay. Welcome to today's episode, everyone. We are here today with the Yogi and the Blonde happening in the episode. I told you.
Where did that random French accent just come from? Actually, that's not that random. You speak French. Sorry.
To be honest, that's so funny. I've been talking about that. I've been doing that quite a lot. Like the other day, yesterday, I was doing that with a client. All of a sudden, I think I was making someone else, another PT, laugh because I started doing a French accent. Is that, how's it going and what's going on? Like I explained it in this accent and the accent of I've been French speaking. And they're like, they ask me, why am I so good at that? I wish I could do that. Well, when you've got the French family and some of them, their accent is like this, you grow up with it, you hear so much and it's just easy for you to do. You know what I mean?
Wow, I do forget that French is your first language, essentially, because we only speak to each other in English, and your English is so good.
Yeah, well, I went to school English speaking, that's why.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so
Anyways,
lucky to be bilingual. Anyway, sorry.
Let's get back into this. I'm sorry about that little digression. It's just me being silly. I've had a bit of an unpredictable stopping week, but hey, I'm not letting it stop me because I'm keeping my spirits up. You know, things are out of my control. It's in the past, it's done. I'm here with this beautiful Michelle, and we're here to have some fun and educate you guys and learn off of each other as well. So today we are talking about NEAT and 5 ways to increase your NEAT in the work environment. So we're going to tell you what NEAT stands for, break down the geeky science of it, which Michelle's going to be the geek this time around, doing a bit of research, and she's going to be the scientist explaining to us what this all stands for, which is kind of fun that we play around and we switch around with that kind of stuff. So yeah, Michelle, here you go. Tell us all about NEAT. What is NEAT and what does it stand for, babe?
NEAT. So if you have been listening to our podcasts, which I hope you have been, we did very briefly touch on NEAT in our episode about metabolism, an overview of metabolism. And we didn't really go into much detail because NEAT in itself is quite a big topic. And I keep saying NEAT, and if you don't know what it is, you're probably going, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Because yeah, neat can be neat and tidy. But in this context, NEAT, NEAT, stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which sounds very fancy. Very fancy. Non-activity, non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
So that would include like body function, wouldn't it, Michelle?
Yeah. So basically, as we talked about in the episode about metabolism, we have our basal metabolic rate, which is the energy that we expend living, like the energy that we expend without even realizing. If we were lying in bed doing absolutely nothing, we would still be expending energy because we still breathe, our body still goes through processes. That's our basal metabolic rate. NEAT is the energy that we expend doing everything else. It is separate to our structured exercise because we've got EAT as well as NEAT. EAT is our exercise activity thermogenesis. So that's our structured
talk about that another time.
Exercise. But NEAT is basically everything that we do that isn't structured exercise, which is why it's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see that I am waving my hands around. I've been fiddling with my hair because it's a disaster at the moment. Nadia's running her fingers through her hair because hers isn't a disaster and it's glorious. So gesticulating, using your fingers, oh goodness, Nadia's gesticulating a bit too wildly for those listening. Calm down. She's expending lots of energy over there. So basically, in a nutshell, NEAT is all of the energy that we're expending outside of surviving and outside of that structured exercise. So walking, fidgeting, talking, gesticulating, everything else would be considered as NEAT.
Walking's a big one. You guys might hear a lot of people, I'm getting my 10,000 steps a day, because believe it or not, that helps. Not just the exercise that you go and do in a gym, but what you do outside of a gym. So it's about moving, you're cleaning your house, you're gardening, that kind of thing as well, isn't it, Michelle?
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily consider that to be exercise, but all of that is a really energy expensive process. So all of that would count. Just a random story about 10,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
So 10,000 steps is actually just a really arbitrary number, but where it came from, I don't know if you remember pedometers.
Yes.
You used to attach them to your hip and you'd walk around. So I think it was the 1975 Olympics. The one I told you I'm the geek.
That was 3 years before I was born. Wow.
I think, well, I might be wrong. It was the Tokyo Olympics, and basically this company that had a pedometer
Yeah.
They were trying to market it. So I think they were trying to get people excited about it, and everyone loves a competition, and it's associated with the Olympics. So everyone's really competitive. So 10,000 steps was just a really arbitrary number, but it is, can be quite challenging depending on the lifestyle that you live. It can be quite, it's a decent chunk of steps. So it just took. I don't think there's any specific research that says 10,000 steps is the magic number, but that is the number that just kind of stuck, and we all aim to get our 10,000 steps per day, which is awesome. But it's, for where it came from is just really random.
That is random. Now, but you think about, though, like if I talk to people who are in a sitting disease type of position for the day, being sedentary, a lot of them struggle to get that 10,000 steps.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
and I think this was the interesting thing with working from home now. Obviously, working from home has been a bit of a shift post-COVID, and a lot of organizations haven't switched back. So when you are at home and then you work at home, you actually miss out on a lot of the opportunity for movement. So unless you kind of force yourself to, I've had clients where they've managed 3,000 steps in a whole day. Yes. For the benefit of people listening, Nadia was very shocked by that revelation.
Like, hold on, let me just see my Oura Ring's updating. So Oura Ring is quite accurate because it's on my finger, right? And I think I've even played around with testing. If you don't move your wrist around when you got something on your watch on your wrist, it only does the movement. So if you're a mom and you have a pram and you're pushing the pram with the one that has the watch, it won't count that in. And
my friend has discovered this. She's so grumpy, and I think she might have put it on her ankle to get the steps in.
That's smart.
She was so grumpy that it didn't work when she was holding the pram.
Yeah. Well, I've accumulated. It's 1:50 p.m. I've accumulated 11,149 steps.
Legend. Let me see what I'm on. Whoa, I'm only on 7,015 steps so far. So I've got
did you do a workout today?
Oh, I've tried to. I'm nursing a wee injury at the moment. So
okay. So take that into account. Yes. Take that into account as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's early days. Like I said, it's only 10 to 2 in the afternoon. So I've got plenty of time. Because of my lifestyle, I aim to get about 12,000 steps per day.
Yeah. Mine's 13 and a half.
For everybody. Yeah. And this is where 10,000 is a bit of an arbitrary figure. If you are somebody that's getting 3,000 per day, then, not even getting to 10,000, if you can double that, if you can get to 6,000 steps per day, then that is going to have a huge impact on your health, essentially.
Yeah, in all different ways too, not just about burning calories, but as well as the physical body, the mental state, you'll sleep, it'll help with your sleep. It does everything that you do, anything that has to do with health and wellness, like anything, little changes you do, after you start doing all these little changes, you're gonna start seeing some results in the body. And it's not one thing that's gonna fix it. It was like a client of mine asked me today, and she's in menopause stage of her life. And she asked me, she's like, what is your thoughts on the keto diet? And I just automatically responded to, I said, one diet doesn't fit all. And she looked at me, she's like, I know that. And I'm like, okay. She's like, but what are your thoughts on it? And I'm like, well, I would do a keto carb cycling personally, because females, we still need some carbs, right? We do need some sort of carbs. And it's interesting when we talk about carbs, that's totally something different as well, as there's different types of carbs. A lot of carbs people think it was like pasta and bread and that. And when I'm talking about carbs, I'm like talking about grains, stuff that's better for you. Vegetables is a carb base, that kind of carb. So it was quite interesting just to see that, and just to see that whole different picture of how people think of one thing, right? So it's about introducing everything and starting to make a change. Like Michelle said, if you're doing 3,000 steps as your average, challenge yourself each week. Challenge yourself to add 1,000, and doing little things. And tell you guys at some point in the podcast of ideas what you can do at work, and you would be surprised by consistency of doing these little bits throughout the day. Every day you'll start seeing an increase. Now,
yeah, I think that's actually really why we want to do a whole podcast just on this subject, because you know, we're both personal trainers. People come to us, they spend an hour, sometimes 2 hours a week with us, and we do structured exercise. Fine, they might do a class outside, but really the reality is most people are only exercising for a maximum of 4 hours per week, maybe more actually. But anyway, that's still just such a tiny portion of your waking hours across a whole week. Like, let's not even talk about a week, let's talk about a day. You know, you might be awake, let's say you sleep 8 hours, you're awake for 16, you might spend one of those hours exercising, and it's the 15 hours in between where you can make the most difference to your health and your well-being. And if weight loss is a goal, then that's a big area that you can focus on. Because it's exercise is great. Exercise, I would tell to everybody, do it. But I always tell to my clients, don't do exercise to lose fat. Focus on what you're doing in those other 15 hours, and that's where NEAT comes in. Everything else that you're doing outside of that is going to influence your energy expenditure, which is a subject for our next podcast. But this is why we wanted to talk about it in particular.
And it's about creating movement. So, and people think that they need to be working out, going to the gym and working out for 2 hours. You do not. I don't know how many consultations people write down. They do like an hour and a half, 2 hours workout. And I'm like, do you really need that? You don't need that. It's about consistency, and it's about what you do the rest of the day. There's a bit, if you think about it, do you remember me teaching you about zigzag theory? Do you remember the zigzag theory?
Yeah.
I think use the zigzag theory for that as well. So I'll explain for those who haven't listened to me talk about the zigzag theory. The zigzag theory, I learned that through Dr. Libby, which is a doctor, and she's an amazing doctor out in Australia. And she's quite well known. And I was reading one of her books, and she talks about the zigzag theory. The zig is what you do every day, and the zag is the social outlet kind of thing. But if you look at this exercise, the zig is what you do throughout the day, every day, and the zag is the exercise that you go to create more strength and to create mobility. And that's the zag, and the zig is what you do every day. It's that consistency of moving rather than being still. Do you have anything else on that, Michelle, or should I jump into?
No, I'm excited to hear what the tips are, because there might be some people listening to this going, oh God, actually, I don't actually get the opportunity to move around that much. And I guess, you know, we recognize, again, we're coming from a position where we're both personal trainers, we're on our feet all day. It's easy for us to move around. We're moving between clients, between places. Not everyone has that same opportunity to move as much as we do. So for those who are it is a luxury. And you know, this is partly why I chose this profession. But for some people, they don't have that opportunity. They have to sit at a desk for hours per day. They might have to drive to their place of work. So they might be listening to this going, oh my God, well, I don't get to move much. So how can we help those people?
Okay, so Yogi? These are just 5. I'm happy to help. Okay, so there's 5 ways to increase your NEAT at work. And think about quality over quantity. People think about that they've got to do something like it's got to be like a big grand gesture, but it isn't. It's quality over quantity. Consistency is the key. Does that make sense?
True. Yes. Okay. Doing something is better than doing nothing.
Yeah. So one is obviously, if you're working at home and you've set yourself up a desk, get yourself a sit-stand desk. At work, ask if you can get a sit-stand desk. You know, this is the health and well-being. The reason why it helps to increase that need is the desks allows you to sit and stand. And by switching positions, you are then expending extra energy. And when they're showing that it's like that you should actually be standing 3 times longer than you should be sitting, because we are not built to sit in chairs. We're actually built to move. So our brain in our body are best healthiest when we move. So think about getting a station, like a workstation, that you can do that. And there's different types of options, and there's a lot of options where at work they might not want to get a full-on sit stand desk, but you can get something that sits on top of your desk, and then you press a button and it comes up into a standing desk, so they physically don't have to buy a new desk. So there's that option as well. And try to think about standing 3 times longer than sitting.
That's a nice stat.
Yeah. And when I was teaching yoga for the Auckland Council, I did that for about 4 or 5 years before we hit the global pandemic of COVID. Now, I remember hearing one of my students, my regular students, had said they do talking meetings. So walk while you work. So if you can, if you get a phone call, and a lot of people have mobile phones now with work, so it gives you a bit more freedom to move around, get up and go find a room and pace in the room. If anytime you get a call and you are able to stand up and walk around, do that. Now, if you're in a call center type of place, but if you've got a long cord, then just pace back and forth, back and forth. It might be like only 10 steps, but that's 10 steps more than you would do when you're sitting. And
that's actually something that you can do outside of work as well. If someone phones you on your mobile, you can walk and talk.
Yeah, like I said, our brain and our body aren't designed to be in a stagnant position. It's born to be moving. And so finding different things. Another one, and I'm seeing this pop up quite a lot more, and because I'm going to invest myself, I'm going to get a standing desk eventually in my home as well. But another thing I thought I might eventually get as well, especially if I'm at home working a lot and working on programs and doing a lot of admin computer, is get a treadmill desk. So you can get they're small. It's not like a full-on treadmill, but it's for those walking at a standing desk. And it's a smaller treadmill. It's quite heavy though, from my understanding. And you can walk at a really slow pace while you work. I heard somebody who had one, and they are able to get like 20,000 steps in a day
without actually going anywhere.
Yeah, just by doing hilarious. That. Yeah.
I've seen a little cycle version of that. So you have your feet on pedals.
Yeah.
And it obviously doesn't go anywhere. It's under your desk. So you're kind of cycling your legs under your desk as well.
Fascinating. Well, there's the 3 activities, like if we want to break it down for the walk while you're at work, is walk and talk on the phone, do walking meetings, and then walk up the stairs rather than the elevator.
Can I tell you one of my bugbears?
Yeah,
in life in general. Yeah. This isn't necessarily work related. When people don't walk up escalators. Oh my God. They're just stairs. They're just stairs that move.
I know.
People just stand on them. It's like, just walk up them. It's like the shortest staircase ever, because it's also moving you up as you walk. So it's like you're actually walking up half a staircase.
It's the same thing
as it's just stairs. Unless you've got big heavy bags or suitcases or whatever, or you're carrying a child, fine. Yes, I know there are exceptions to this, but most of the time,
well, it's just like what about those escalators, those flat escalators that you see, walking escalators in airports? I love walking down them because I feel like I'm like the quickest woman, but it annoys me when people they're lined up and they just stopped, and it's just like,
on it.
You've been sitting for how long? 12 hours, 13 hours, 5 hours? Move your butt. Yeah,
just surely those are only in there for people that are late. So they like need an extra.
Yeah. I love using them because I love walking really quick.
Yeah, power. Yeah,
Yeah.
but people just stand on them. Oh yeah.
So
Sorry, that's a big bugbear of mine.
do you know what? I concur. I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I'll tell people, excuse me, can I pass by, please? Just
Yeah,
because
because
I'm
then
like, I'm
they
not
don't stand on the left either. Pass.
Yeah, let me pass. I want to move. I want to get my steps in, man. Even if it's only going to be 4 steps, but that means it's 4 steps closer to my goal.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, now we're going to move on to change your position often. So something I kind of said at the beginning about getting a standing desk so you can sit down, up and down. It's the same thing here, changing that movement. So, because again, our frame, our structural frame, our joints, our ligaments are not stand to be still and static. We need to move. Even like for those that can't see and they're not watching a video, I'm just reaching from side to side, doing like a bit of a side bend. Even if you do something like that, even like a twist. So it looks like I'm kind of running, that running, you're like twisting through the spine, even doing that and lifting your feet up. And even performing like posture breaks every hour is really recommended to get up. If you don't have a sitting desk, get up. Get up, stand up, reach the arms behind you, stretch, like get up and move those hips like I'm doing right now for those that are not watching. And I'm just moving, I'm changing my posture. Otherwise, we're like here, right? Hunched over. And so we want to open up, and even doing things like that actually makes a difference, because again, NEAT is seeing that movement. It's that movement that what helps. So if I'm static and I'm not doing anything, the NEAT is really low. But if I keep doing these movements like this, it's going to help. Even just drawing your shoulders down and looking up and to the side, just doing some kind of movement. So changing your posture often will increase your NEAT, and it'll prevent poor posture. So I've got a client that a bit of bad posture, sitting, doing a lot of computer work, hunched over. You might get like that, a little bit of a round upper hunch just below the neck. And we've been working on that. And I see her stand, and where she just rotates her palms forward and she stands and she pulls her shoulders back. She's doing that a lot more often, even in our sessions when she's standing and she's like on her rest and stuff, or I'm talking and explaining and she's standing. She'll do that quite a lot. And it's improved. It's not going to do overnight, because I've been working with her since, was it June last year? Yeah, almost a year, coming up to almost a year. And we're starting to see the change now. But again, it's that she does that often. It's taken some time to get to that point, but it's that consistency is the key. So changing your posture often is really important. Okay. Now, another one is while you're seated on another one is if you're sitting, sit on an exercise ball or a posture cushion. So when you're on I don't know about you, Michelle, do you find if you're sitting on an exercise ball, you kind of move from side to side and you kind of bounce around?
Yeah, definitely.
And what that does as well, it brings activation. When you're doing that kind of stuff, you tend to work the core. And if you're like me, I am aware, and I bring that awareness of working the core, which is then creating again that NEAT activation. So because it's quite a dynamic sitting position, right? You're needing to gauge your muscles while you're sitting, and it helps to promote that posture. Why we get poor posture is because we let go and relax. So for those that are listening, and those that are watching, you're going to see me. I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to slouch and I'm going to relax. My muscles are relaxed right now. I'm so relaxed. I'm not engaging anything except I'm actually sitting on a stool. So that's the only thing, is my legs being that way. Now I'm going to change. Watch here. Now I want you to lift your chest, pull your shoulders back a little bit. Think about lifting the chest bone, the sternum up towards the ceiling, and just not pinch the shoulder blades, but pull them slightly back and down. And that you need to use your muscles for that. You need to use the core. And this is where you can work on the pelvic floor muscle, which is the deep core muscle as well, while you're sitting on the exercise ball or using a posture cushion, right? And I think that's a great way of doing it. And it stimulates you think about it, it stimulates the spine, and it creates a bit of equilibrium between your balance ability, especially on an exercise ball, because it's unstable, right? It's a ball.
Yeah.
It rolls around.
What I'm picturing in my mind is a stuffy insurance office and everybody's sitting on stability balls.
Well, I was
bouncing around the office.
But you know what, though? This is not brand new. Okay, I am 45, almost 45 and a half. In my early 20s, I worked for a company called NMAX. They're a power supplier company in Canada. And because they had shift, it was a new part of the company, and power went deregulation, so it wasn't regulated or anything like that anymore. And we were in this new building, and they had like stand up desks for us. We had the option of having our own individual Swiss balls and these round rubber things where you can go with your hands and work your hands a bit too. It was amazing. But you think about
20 years ago.
Over 20 years ago.
That's amazing.
So it's not brand new. It's not brand new. It's just because I think back then, like a cell phone was a luxury to have. Back then, right? It was like quite really, really expensive to have a cell phone and have the minutes, because you didn't have texting either back then as well. And you got to think about laptops and computers, and a lot of that was quite of a luxury thing, and you didn't spend at home a long period of time in front of a computer. Well, I didn't. And it's just come as the years go by, and the technology is bloody amazing, and you can do so much with it now, that we are always stimulated, always sitting in front of a screen, so it stops that movement, right? So it fascinates me. They were
well ahead of their time back then, that company. Amazing.
Yeah. Now the last one is, I want you to think about, you can like I was saying, to change your position while at work from sitting to standing. One thing you can do when you're standing is do balance training. I have a client, a lovely, lovely, lovely lady, and she's in her 60s. So for anyone starting in your 30s, your hormones start to change. And this is even men. And this is where, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't know how to use your core to create balance. Balance is so important for core stability, but it's also brain, because you got to focus. So there's like that great thing. So that's something you can do. If you're in the kitchen at work and you're waiting for your cup of tea, or you're in line getting a coffee, just lift one foot. You don't have to lift it really, really high, but just balance on one foot and then switch and balance on the other. And then you can start challenging yourself, talking to people while you're balancing, and just playing around with that, rather than sitting on your phone and looking down. And by looking straight ahead, we create that length and better posture. Otherwise, we're looking at our phone and we're like this. And that's where you get that hunch in the back. And when I say looking like this, I have my chin into the back of my throat and I'm looking downwards. So where you're looking, your body follows. Okay. So just think about that. And you can do that, like hold for 30 seconds and then switch and do the other side 30 seconds. That lady that I was starting to talk about she's in her 60s. She had to hold on to something for balance. And that's just even lifting her foot a little bit. She started training with me in Feb, and we are mid-May. This week was the first time that I was telling her not to let go of the rail. And she was so ecstatic. And she had her knee up in line with the hip. She had it nice and lifted, and she didn't need to hold on to the rail. She was ecstatic that she needed to do that, because whenever they do at the end of a class and they stand and they stretch, they bend the knee backwards to stretch the quadricep, she always has to go up to a wall and do that. So we're going to work for her to be comfortable to do that, so that she doesn't have to walk to the wall. She can just stand there and stretch and work that balance. Again, it helps with the focus as well.
Yeah.
So I'll just quickly title those off. So the first one is get a sit stand desk. There's so many options out there. Walk while you work. So, and then remember, you can do the walk talk on the phone, do walking meetings, and then walking up the stairs rather than the elevator. Change your position, your posture often. So just creating movement, little stretches at the desk. You can sit on an exercise ball or a posture cushion, because that'll help, because to create that good posture, we need to engage our body. And then the last one is performing balance exercise, 30 seconds each side. Done. Hello. Neat increased. Now, what I want you to do, we'll have that in below, in the notes below. And what we'll do is have a mat. You can just look at them, and we'll put a few ideas under each one, so you guys can refer to that rather having to listen to the podcast again. But hey, if you enjoy the podcast and you want to hear our lovely voices or see our big smiles and our uniqueness, watch us again and we'll share that. Or just
like and subscribe.
It to the end. Yeah. So what do you think of those, Michelle?
Love. I've got one to add,
Cool.
just because I was talking to a client about this the other day.
Yeah.
Movement snacks. So getting up and doing something for a period of time. So this was for a specific client. And what we had suggested was every hour on the hour, an alarm to go off. And that's the signal to go for a 10-minute walk. So there's a walk that she can do around the grounds where she works, 10 minutes, and then come back, keep working. And then next hour, the alarm goes off, she goes again. 10 minutes a day, that's an hour of walking across the day.
Even if you don't have 10 minutes, because I'll hear a lot of people, oh, I don't have 10 minutes. I don't have 10 minutes. I don't have 10 minutes. Well, you know what? Just do 2 minutes. Even just getting up, just having a smaller glass of water, like a really small glass of water. So getting up, refilling it, coming back, getting up, refilling it, coming back, and doing that every half hour will increase. So, and the alarm is a great thing. That's something that I use quite a lot with my clients as well, for like certain habits that we're trying to implement and stuff. Use your phone. Actually, your phone's always with
I was going to say, with your if you have a fitness tracker type watch, you can set it to vibrate if you haven't done X number of steps per hour, or you can set it to remind you to do an activity. So there are lots of ways that you can prompt yourself, because when you're at work and you're in the zone and you're tap, you can lose your energy a bit because you're sat in that position and you start to get a bit lazy to do anything. So if something's prompting you and you're getting up and doing little bits every now and then over the course of a day, over a week, over a month, that really adds up. And snacks.
Snacks. Well, it's about that consistency, and that's why it was saying, I had shared as well, is for changing your posture, like every hour, change your posture. That's what that is. Some people can't, they're in a call center kind of state, and so they can't physically leave. But if they stand up, if you're just talking to someone and you're standing up and you're reaching around and just doing that kind of movement, that's better than nothing as well. So think about not the big thing, like if 10 minutes, you can't do 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you know, just go for, if you're on a few, if you're a few floors up, or you're on the ground floor and you know there's stairs in the building, go up a few, come back. Something is better than nothing. Like 10 steps, extra steps is better than nothing. That's what it comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love it. For today, though, I think.
Yes.
Feels good to me.
Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a walk.
I think we need to break as well, because we've got a few more sessions to go here. So I think we're going to break there. We need to move now.
Yeah. So any questions about NEAT? If you like any of the options, if you've tried any of them, get in touch with us. Let us know. We love feedback. So we have our Instagram page, we've got our YouTube page, Spotify. Let us know, get in touch. And yeah, we hope that today has been useful.
Yeah, like, love, follow. That the more that we have people following us, sharing the episode on social media and your stories, all of that, that helps us. That helps us. Okay. That helps us with following. That helps us with keeping the podcast happening. So like, love, and follow, and share. And comment down below. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. We want to just not, we don't want to just hear the good. We want to hear everything. Be honest. Be honest. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That is us for today. Thank you for joining us on the neat. Now let's go for a walk, Michelle. Bye, everyone.
If you have enjoyed listening to our podcast today
and want to hear more, please subscribe using the button below.